Hey, what up guys and gals? Jesse here from Long Lost Robots. If you're like me and you have a small studio and you're trying to make things easier on yourself, there's one thing that can do that, and that is the patch bay. Let's go, let's talk about this.
And there's a collection of green plastic gummy ready for war.
Alright guys and gals, so we're going to talk about the patch bay. Now the patch bay that I have is a very affordable patch bay. I think it's cheaper now than when I bought it at retail price. So retail then was more expensive about a year ago. It is the Behringer Ultra Patch Pro 3000. So I have the model PX 3000. It's a 48 point, meaning there's 24 on the front, 24 on the back, right? And these are inputs and outputs. I don't know if I want to get into how a patch bay actually works. It's super confusing when you look at it on paper. And so what I want to do is just show you some real-time examples of what I'm using it for. It has just made things so much easier on me. So first thing, why do I need a patch bay? Well, if you have an interface like my little 18i third generation Scarlett 18i20, it has inputs in the back. It has outputs in the back, like all interfaces. So how do you get to those things and how do you set them up and you want to keep going through the back? Well, the patch bay allows you to have access to these back inputs and outputs, and really it's sky's the limit. So I'm actually going to show you how I'm using mine, and there's just multiple ways that I'm using it. Now, first things first, we're going to use the MPC one as a controller for all my hardware. All my hardware is connected to the 18i20, my interface, in the back. So if I can just maybe translate a little bit on how I'm using it, maybe you can start to understand and see if it's right for you. In most cases, it's going to be, especially if you have a lot of hardware. So let's just go ahead and look at the interface. When I hit my little pad here for the JU06, you can see the inputs are in. All of my hardware is hooked up. So let's go ahead, and we can't hear anything because nothing's hooked up. So let's grab a patch bay cord. These are balanced cables, and I'm going to run out of the output JU06 into my mixer. We can now hear it. Let's go ahead and choose a nice little, let's go ahead and choose something soft. Let's go to the 106. There we go, guys. So now you can see on the input, everything's is recognized. So what does that mean? That means I have the JU06 going output underneath my desk into the back of the patch bay. Okay? And then in the back of the patch bay, the output automatically goes into the Scarlett. So when you're looking at a hole like this JU06, this is the input in the back, and this is the output in the back, right? So in and out, as you're looking at these, there are two identical ports or inputs, outputs in the back. So as the JU06 is plugged into the input, I can run that right out into the mixer without having to touch anything here. That means I'm constantly plugged in. I'm not pulling cords in and out. And that's going to save on wear and tear of the piece of hardware. So, look, we have our signal, but strangely enough, I have input in the Scarlett still, and that's awesome. So now I'm sending signal out, and I can still record it. That's cool. Let's say technically I wanted to record something, and this is something I just thought of right now. If I'm recording it, I have the ability to send it out into an effect and run that into another input while still maintaining the dry signal. That's cool. Just thought of it right now. Because I'm on half normal. And the great thing about the Behringer Ultra Patch is that it has switches on the top. So if I wanted to pull the rack out, I can switch it. So I like the half normal instead of the normal. If I was doing normal and I were to connect this, I think it would cut the signal completely from the interface, and that's fine because, again, if I were to kind of explain it to you, we need a piece of paper to explain it to you. So right now I'm on half normal in this setting. I have my JU06. Guys, let's just keep going. Let's get another patch cable. Here's my Behringer Model D. We're going to hook that right up into the Model D. And what I'm doing is I'm actually going into the zoom here. Let's go ahead and plug that bad boy there. I'm going to switch to the Model D. Right? Still a little hull on there, a little tape. So, excellent. Look at how easy, this is kind of a short cable here. I got a longer one that I use. But look how easy it is just to keep your desk clean if you needed to. And I have almost all my stuff set up. We'll talk about that later on. Very easy to get things patched right away. Let's go ahead and grab another cable. And this is for the Volca NuBase. We're going to plug that bad boy right into here. Switch to the Volca. And again, notice all the inputs are all working. Let's go to the Model D, and you can see it's working. Right? Now, even for myself, I need to go ahead and clean up my back. I've been experimenting with certain things on how to get the exact setup that I want, and I recently kind of messed with things, so I need to tighten some things out. But look how quickly I was able to, or almost always have, my patch cables hooked up to my mixer, so I'm just rocking out immediately. I have access, my hardware is always connected to the patch bay. So let's go ahead and get rid of these really quick. Now, one thing that I've been doing, one thing you need to know is this. Okay, let's get rid of all this. Let's get rid of all these cables. One thing you need to know about the back is I have all these little guys. So as the JU06 is plugged in to the input, the top input, the output, I use one of these little guys. It's a balanced cable. The output is going into the input of the interface. Very simple. In, out. And like I said, you saw me able to break it, but it still didn't break the signal to the interface. Love that. Possibilities. Now, in normal, it would break that. There's also a through, meaning very simple. If you plug it in the back, it's going right out the front and it's through. I have some of those settings here as well. I'll talk about that in a second. And that is definitely very much needed. If you want something just to go through, you can imagine the possibilities if you have hardware compressors, EQs, limiters, and you want to be able to route something just immediately anywhere, right, guys? So the cool thing is about the patch bay is, let's say I wanted to, let's just go ahead and put the Model D back in. Let's say I have my Volca NuBase. Now I had some problems with my BassPod Pro. This thing's about 20 years old, still rocks out. I had some input problems, but for this demonstration, we're gonna see how it goes. So there's here's the line 6 model out, the direct out, meaning it's not affected by effects. I think I have them backwards actually. And here's a line input. So right now I can connect the bass guitar if I want to in the front of the BassPod Pro, or I can take my Volca NuBase, because that is the input, right? Now I've broken that. And I'm going to go right into the line input of the BassPod Pro. All right, guys, so let's go over another scenario really quick. If I want to go out of my Volca NuBase, here's the output of the Volca NuBase. I'm going to go into the line of the back of the BassPod Pro, right, like I was just talking about. Then we are going to go out of the model, the out of it. And now I have, it's down here. So here's my input. Getting some used to it myself, right, guys? I don't use it all the time. And like I was saying, I've had some problems with my BassPod Pro. And right when I was getting used to getting excited about hooking the NuBase up to the BassPod Pro in the back of the line input of the BassPod Pro, the NuBase into the Pod Pro is bad. Check this out. So I can throw different things on it, little flanger. Get a little EQ on there. Now it's extremely noisy right now because, like I said, I'm having some problems, but you can see the application, how easily I just took the Volca NuBass, threw it right into the BassPod Pro, and ran it right out into the mixer, right guys? So again, let's do that one more time. Watch guys. I just went ahead and go right out of the Volca NuBass into the line in. And I'm going to go directly out of the line 6. And that's actually the model because I got it wrong. You can see I have a direct and model. I got it backwards. Get that little distortion going. Yeah. Can't get any better than that, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next scenario here, right? So let's go ahead and unplug all that, guys. So cool. You're starting to see just how these things can be used. It's super cool. Let's go ahead and leave that right there. So one of the next things that I use my patch bay for is just for the ease of use. So let's say I wanted to send the JU06 to my tube preamp here. Right now it's off, no big deal. But for this scenario, now I don't need to, completely unplug things. I can simply just go ahead and go out of my JU06. I can plug it right into the ART preamp. And the ART preamp is always taking up 2 channels. So I just always know that 7 and 8 in the 18i20 is always going to be for my ART, right? So it's used XLR cables in the back, so it's nice and tight. If I want to go dry, I'll just plug my microphone right into the Claret. It's got the best preamps out of all of them, but believe me, that's another topic for another video. All right, guys. So I have the JU06 plugged in, and you can see the input. Well, now that channel's been taken up, right? How do I plug anything into that channel? The inputs are in the back. I don't want that. I need that channel hooked up. I want to be able to use all 8 channels at once. How do I do that? Well, that's the output. So if I just remove the JU06, let's say here is, well, that was the drum root. So let's say I have my drum root. Here's the drum root output. My drum root's over here. Here's the drum root. Here's the output. The drum root's not plugged in. I can plug that right into the output, and there we go. You can see the input working right on the screen. And now I'm hitting that. Right, guys? Super cool. It doesn't get any better than that. Because believe me, the drum root's on. We take that drum root and plop it right back here. Right? Take that right out. Right into the right into the line 3, input 3. Right? Doesn't get any better than that, guys. So I bypassed the signal, right? I just went right in, and now I'm using the input. So each one of these, so let's fix that. So each one of these are now my inputs. Outputs, inputs. So in the back, it's an input, but now this is the output. And in the back, this is an output, but now this is an input. Get it? Watch that twice. So super, super cool, right, guys? Here's another application. It'll probably be the last one. We'll cut this video short. Here's the last thing that I want to show you because there's so many possibilities. This is just the way I'm using it now. There's multiple ways to use this. But my 18i20 has multiple outputs. It's got like 8 outputs, and I don't use them for speakers right now. I use my Claret for my main speakers. I want to get some more speakers, but we'll talk about that another day. Here is an output. So I have an output of the 18i20 to connect to speakers or to anything I want, but I want to use my Mac to put some samples in here. I want to do something. Well, I'll plug that right back here. Here's another output. So it's going, the output here is going into the patch bay. These are going into the MPC. what we're going to do is just come right over here. Guys, we have a track. We're going audio. Should be all hooked up. Let's get rid of this. And let's go ahead and play a little. Look at that. Guys, right in. You can hear it right into the mixer. How cool is that? So now, if I want to start sampling, if I want, I know I haven't done my gain staging. There's a lot of hiss, but now I can go ahead and do anything that I need to and sample right here, right from Logic Pro or YouTube, or I can go into songs, or I can do whatever I want and go right into here and not have cables everywhere. You notice how all my cables are all running into one little snake here. And for the most part, it can get a little cluttered, somewhat, but I don't think it's cluttered. It's easy for me, and all my instruments are ready to go. So again, 18I20 going into the inputs. Now they're outputs. I'm going out of them. And they're left and right. Something I got to check on again, like I mentioned. And guys, bam. We can just go ahead and play that. Doesn't get any better than that. Very, very simple hookup. Okay. Now you can only imagine if you wanted to hook up like an effects processor, you would use the outs and returns or sends and returns into your patch bay, and you could immediately hook anything up to the effects processor, kind of like I did with the BassPod Pro. I used it as an effects processor, but I didn't even use the send and return. I used the actual input. And to me, that just gives it a more just solid feel instead of running it through a loop. So guys, super excited. I'm so glad I finally got to do this video. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. The patch bay is truly needed, especially if you have an interface with a lot of inputs in the back of the interface, and that's how most interfaces are going to be when they start going over 2 inputs to maybe 4 inputs, right? Some interfaces will have 4 inputs on the front. You're golden, right? And I know it's a little silly here because I have 2 inputs here. That kind of sucks. It is just the way it is, but I love it. Anyways, guys, remember, as you're plugging something in through the back, you can through it just all the way through. These are in through mode. So once they come in through the back of it, it's just going through the whole thing. Same with the line. I wanted it to go in, and I wanted it to just be through. And that's it. It's going through into the input of the BassPod Pro. So that's what that line is right here. These are inputs now, or this is an input. So anyways, guys, I hope this makes sense. I hope you found some value in this video. If you did, hit like, subscribe. It helps out a growing channel like this. I'm trying to have fun in the studio. I'm trying to let you guys, I'm trying to share what knowledge I'm getting and growing and passing it on to younger producers out there and older producers. Just the fun that you can have. Don't take it too seriously. Use your gear. Pay attention to, pay attention to gear that you can afford and use in your studio. If you're constantly looking at videos that have, $1,000 interfaces and stuff like that, multi-$1,000 interfaces, and you just got a $200 interface, pick and choose your battles, guys. Learn from small studios like mine. I hope we can share together. Comment below. Let us know how you're using patch bays. Again, the sky's the limit with a patch bays. I know big studios, multi-$1,000 studios, again, have multiple patch bays which will hook up multiple pieces of hardware. And for me, in a small studio, recently buying the 18i20, I knew I needed it, and it's done nothing but pay off. Anyways, guys, I've had so much fun. My name is Jesse with Long Lost Robots. If you'd like, go on to Spotify or anywhere. You can check out my music, check out my productions, put it on this playlist, share with your friends, share this video. Take care. I hope you are making some beautiful music. We'll talk to you soon.